Hello, friends. My name is John LaCroix. I am the owner and race director of the Human Potential Running Series. Thanks for joining me today. This is going to be our course preview for the Endure Trail Runs. Endure is held every year in May in Divide, Colorado at Mueller State Park. We have a maximum capacity of 200 runners for this event, and we're so excited that you're either joining us or have interest in joining us. What I'd like to do today is go over a little bit of a course preview for you all so that you know what you're in for and where everything goes and how it works at this incredibly unique event, again, that we call Endure Trail Runs. First, if you are in the 10-kilometer race or the half marathon, the course at Endure Trail Runs is made up of multiple colored loops. And what we do is we will hang ribbon on those loops that coincides with the colored ribbon that route is. So if you're in the 10K, you're going to run our green loop followed by the orange loop. And in between those two loops, you will end up right back at the start-finish line. So you're going to head out and run the green loop, check back in at the start-finish line. There's an aid station there for you to enjoy whatever you need, food, water, all kinds of snacks, you name it. And then you head out and run your orange loop and come back in for the finish. If you're in the half marathon, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to run the green loop, check in at the start finish, orange loop, check in at the start finish, and then you'll head out for your third loop, which is purple. You'll run the purple loop and run into the finish. So that is how our 10K and half marathons are designed. And in a few seconds here, I'm going to go over what each of those loops look like so that you all know what you're in for. Now, if you're in the timed events, you're in for a very unique time. In the sport of trail and ultra marathon running, timed events usually take place on a track, like a high school track, a warning track around a baseball field, or some kind of 1 to 4 mile loop. And you just keep running the same loop over and over again. Well, here at HPRS, that sounds pretty boring. So we have added a unique twist to these timed events, and I'm going to tell you about them now. In our 12-hour, there will be a bucket full of colored ping pong balls. And what you will do in the 12-hour is you're going to dive your meaty little fist into the bucket full of balls, and you will pull a ball out. And whatever color ball that you pull out will coincide with the colored loop that you will run. So when you're checking into the race, you're going to dive your fist into the bucket right then and there as you're checking in and pull out the first color that you will run. Again, there are 5 different colored loops out on the course: orange, green, blue, red, and purple. And in the bucket, there are multiple orange balls, multiple green, multiple red, multiple blue, multiple purple. There is an equal number of balls for each color. So the odds are the same for every single loop. There is one twist, and the twist is that there is a black ping pong ball in that bucket. And should you pull a black ball out, you have 2 decisions to make. One is you can take a 15-minute timeout right there in the aid station. 15 minutes off to the side, take a break, no running, no nothing. You're just waiting for the 15-minute time limit to be up. Or 2, you could choose to spin the wheel. We're going to have a wheel with a number of different things on it that you could do. You could play the game of Operation. You could be playing the game Perfection. Maybe it's a giant Connect 4, axe throwing. Not real axes. We got some toy axe throwing. You could also be moving M&Ms with chopsticks. You might be making something unique to take a bite out of. You could be doing burpees, push-ups, sit-ups. You could be drawing pictures, singing songs. Whatever our task masters have come up with to put on the wheel is what will be on the wheel. Now, what you'll do is you will spin the wheel, and whatever it lands on, that's the thing you're going to do. And you have a 15-minute time limit to complete that task. If you should complete the task within the 15-minute time limit, you will earn yourself an override ticket. Override tickets are great because what you can do is turn those override tickets in if you pull a ball that you don't want to run that loop. So let's say you pull a red ball out later on in the day and you're like, I don't want to run red again. You would turn in your override ticket and pick whatever color loop you want instead. Of course, if you don't complete the task within 15 minutes, you get nothing, and you just got to play a really fun game for 15 minutes before you pick another ball from the bucket. Now, the 12-hour event is great because the goal is to run as many miles as you can or want within the 12 hours. So you will continue to pull balls out of the bucket and run loops for up to 12 hours max. All you have to do is finish one loop to be considered a finisher in the 12-hour. That means if you run a red loop and you're like, you know what, I'm just not feeling good today, I want to go home. Great. You're going to appear in the results of completing that one loop, which will be 7.4-ish miles, however long that loop is. That will be your final result. The other cool thing about this is that because we're pulling balls out of a bucket and it is a game of chance, no two runners will run the same exact route for the entirety of 12 hours. In the many years that we've held this event, we've never had two runners have the same sequence of colors. So everybody runs a completely different course, a completely different route, and it's all made up by fate. So this is how our 12-hour event works. Really excited again. If you just want to run for 3 hours, you can run for 3 hours. If you want to run for 9 hours, you can run for 9 hours. You don't need to be out there all 10 hours. If you don't make it all 12 hours. And if you don't make it all 12 hours, that doesn't make you a DNF. Again, it's as many miles as you can or want within the time period. Now, let's say that you are first of all, here's a picture of what the bucket looks like. You can see it here on your screen. One of our wonderful volunteers holding the bucket for a runner to dive her fist into. And then here is what the wheel looks like if you are to pull a black ball. Again, the pulling of balls is only in the 12-hour, and every runner pulls their own balls out of the bucket. The 10K runners, again, you already know you're running green and orange. You're not pulling balls. Half marathon, you know you're running green, orange, purple. You're not pulling balls. There are no black balls or any tasks that you need to do in the 10K or half marathon. That is only for the 12-hour event. Now, let's say you're in the 24-hour event. This is a slight twist on the 24-hour event. First of all, in the 12-hour race, every single individual is pulling their balls for the 12 hours. In the 24-hour event, HPRS staff, usually myself, pulls the ball for you. And whatever color ball that I pull out, everybody in the 24-hour must next run that colored loop. So if I pull purple, everybody in the 24-hour will run the purple loop next. You don't need to stay together. You don't need to run the same pace. We just know everybody's running the purple loop. There are no black balls in play for the 24-hour, but there is a secondary pace ball. Pace balls have a slowest possible pace that you must complete that loop in. The fastest pace on those balls is a 16-minute and 30-second mile. It goes up in 15-second increments all the way up to an 18-minute, 30-second mile. So there's 16:30, 16:45, 17-minute, 17:15, etc. from 16:30s to 18:30s. Again, that ball will indicate the slowest possible pace that you must run that loop in. As the event wears on, we will pull some of the faster balls out of the bucket and only leave the slower paced balls in that bucket the later into the event that we get. Your job as a 24-hour runner is to endure. You're to endure all 24 hours of us pulling these balls for you. And again, same colored loops, orange, green, red, blue, purple. Could be anything. Whatever color we pull out, we're going to tell you how long you have to run it. The only other rule is kind of like a backyard ultra. You all need to be at the gate, ready to go for the next loop before the next loop starts. If you're not ready to go before the next loop starts, which is literally on the second that the time expires for the loop you're on, we roll right into the next loop. If you're not ready to go and you don't start that next loop on time, you will be eliminated. And again, only those who endure, who are not eliminated over the course of 24 hours, are the finishers of the 24-hour event. So that's what makes up these unique events. Let's take a look at the course. First of all, I encourage all of you to go to our website, which is humanpotentialrunning.com. You can click on the events tab, and you're looking for Endure, and all of the information that you could possibly need for this event is here on our website. You've got race stats for the 10K and half. Also an explanation of, if you click these buttons, it'll expand. You can see an explanation of how the 12 and 24 hour works. There is a mid-race drop-down option for half marathon runners. That means if you're in the half marathon and you finish the orange loop, which is at the end of 10K, and you're like, you know what, I think I've had enough, you can drop at that time and we will put your name and result in the 10K results. So there shouldn't be any DNFs out there, but all the information you need, also CalTopo interactive maps, which is I'm about to show you, as well as our downloadable PDF map. All of that is here on our website. We encourage you, of course, to check that out. But let's take a look. Here is CalTopo. What I'm going to do is we're going to go over each individual loop first. And we're going to do these in this whatever order I have them here. So here on our page is the this is the blue loop that we're currently looking at. So here on the map, there's the blue loop. Okay. Let's check this out. First of all, what we want to do is here on CalTopo, there is this little stock market looking button over here. And if you click on that, it will bring up the elevation profile for this specific loop. And then if you drag your mouse across the bottom on the elevation profile, there'll be a little dot on the screen. You might be able to see it there now. And that coincides with where on the elevation profile you are on the map. And so we can see that this is a clockwise loop that has two different loops on it. The blue loop is 4.58 miles long with 757 feet of gain and 759 feet of loss. So again, I just dragged my mouse across the elevation profile. You could see that at this first junction, we're going to take a left. At the next major junction, another left, stay left. Running this in clockwise and stay left, all the way back into the start-finish line. So again, if I draw on this map, you can see we come out and then we head down here to the left, come back to this major junction, left again, coming all the way back in to the start-finish line. So let's take a look at this blue loop on our printable maps that we have here. This is it's sideways. I do apologize, but again, on this map, we take off from the start-finish line. I'm actually going to make that blue for you. We take off from the start-finish, and at the first junction, we are going clockwise around this loop. Coming up to this other junction, we're going clockwise again, and then we're going to beeline it all the way back in to the start-finish line. And that is your blue loop. Let's turn blue off and take a look at our green loop. Again, the green loop is going to be the very first loop that you run in the 10K and the half marathon. Turning on our elevation profile, it is 2.45 miles in length, 456 feet of gain, 456 feet of loss. Again, this is going to be a clockwise loop. As you can see, here as I drag my mouse across the elevation profile, that little green dot is making its way around that map. So let's take a look again. We're going to leave the main staging area and then you're going to run this clockwise loop around and coming back into the start finish line. That is the green loop. It is the shortest loop. If we're going to look at it here on our paper maps, here it is. Again, we're going to go clockwise around this loop all the way around, back in, and back up to the start finish line. That is the green loop. Let's next take a look at the orange loop. This loop looks a little bit like a kidney, if you will. Again, I'm going to drag my cursor across the elevation profile on the bottom of the screen. It is also a clockwise loop. It is a lollipop loop. 4.41 miles in length, 712 feet of gain, 712 feet of loss. And again, as I drag my mouse, we're going to go in the clockwise direction around on this loop. There's kind of a big hill in there. So this is one of those loops you're going to get some pretty good elevation gain and loss on it compared to all of the other loops, if you will, but coming on back in. So let's take a look at that again. I think I can barely see it, but we're going to come down. That's your little lollipop stick. And then we're running clockwise around the loop, meeting back up and then coming back in. Let's take a look at it on our paper maps. Here is the orange loop running the clockwise direction. Again, we're coming down to this main intersection. We're going to run downhill through this area. It's a nice field. Then we're going to take a hard right and climb uphill back onto this little ridge line. And we're staying primarily on that ridge all the way back around and then heading back into the start-finish line. Let's take a look at the purple loop. Purple loop is also a lollipop loop. I would say of all the loops on this course, this is one of the ones that people tend to get the most confused on. So I'm going to take a minute here to tell you a little bit more about the purple loop because there's a lot of different trails that stem off of it, and we want to make sure that you don't get on any of those. The purple loop is 7.07 miles long with 1,219 feet of gain, 1,217 feet of loss. And again, as I drag my mouse across the elevation profile, we head out to that main junction out on the course where blue, orange, and purple all intersect. I think red goes through there as well. But we take a hard right, and we're heading back past where orange swings back in. And then here's our first trail junction. There's a little bit of a trail that goes off to the side there as you're climbing this hill. But we come around, and now we're coming around the base of Grouse Mountain, which is the high point in Mueller State Park, the top of Grouse Mountain there, which we do not go to. Here's a big intersection. We're going to stay right, stay straight, and now we get to the loop part of the purple loop. Now this is where the purple loop is run in the counterclockwise direction. There's a trail junction out there. Be careful to take the hard left. Come back around by Cahill Pond Creek, and then take another hard left, and you complete that loop. And then you're going to backtrack the same way you came out. You're heading back towards the start-finish on that same route. So this will bring you all the way back to camp. So again, if I could show you this on our map, we're going to leave the start-finish line. We're going to head backwards on orange, past where orange comes back in. We're avoiding all of these other trails. We're beneath, Grouse Mountain. We're beneath the mountain. And we're going to keep going. Now we're at the lollipop, and we're going counterclockwise around the loop. And then we're coming back in from here. We're going to run this purple loop all the way back. The same way we went out is the same way back in, just the reverse. So that is our purple loop. Let's take a look at it on our print maps. Again, sideways map. All the different trail junctions that are out there are visible on this map. It is a lollipop. So we're backtracking on orange. This is where orange comes back in. We're going past that. Careful not to get on that trail through there, around the base of Grouse Mountain. Hard left, staying straight. Now we're out at the loop part of purple. We're going counterclockwise this time. So all the way around that purple loop. And then once we get here, we're going to come back in the way that we went out earlier. So that is your purple loop. Again, that's the last loop in the half marathon. Finally, let's take a look at the red loop. This is the big southern loop here within the park. We cover a lot of ground on this one too. The red loop is 7.24 miles long. It has 1,384 feet of gain, 1,383 feet of loss. And again, as I drag my mouse across this elevation profile, you will see that we're going in the clockwise direction. Through here, which we're kind of perpendicular to the main state park road, there are a lot of trails that come in and out through this area. They come from various small parking lots. Right here is around the visitor center part of the park. There's just a lot going on in this area, so I will mark it really heavy for you, hopefully to eliminate any confusion you might have, but please do pay attention to the ribbons as you're going through this particular area. And then we're going to take a hard right, and it's downhill for what feels like forever. It's about 1.1 miles. And then we're going to head uphill back onto this ridge, running along this ridge a little bit before we really start heading back downhill again, past the two ponds. There's a beaver living in this one. And then this big climb. This climb has a staircase on it. You're welcome. It's stone steps. Some of them are wooden. It's a really pretty area, but definitely requires some effort to get out of there, past the pond. And now you're running in the reverse of where orange comes down. So you should see some other runners now in this area. And once you get back up on the ridge, you take a right and head back into camp. So let me show you again. We come out of the start-finish line. This is a clockwise route. The area that we're going through right now, there's a lot of different trails coming in and out around the visitor center. And then now we're going to take this sweet downhill, climb up this short one along the ridge, and then back downhill towards the beaver ponds. There is the beaver pond, and then a hard right, and we start climbing the stairs. I think there's 30 stairs past the pond. And then at this point, this is where orange comes down and heads off this way. So you should see runners coming at you as you're coming up this hill. Anybody who's heading out on orange will come and see you. But that completes the red loop. Let's take a look at it on our paper maps. Here it is. You just saw it on our CalTopo. Leaving the start-finish line, it is a clockwise loop through this area where there's a lot of little trails coming in and out of small parking lots from the main access road. You're around the visitor center, and then we're downhill into the middle of nowhere up on this ridge, coming around back downhill to the beaver ponds. That's probably my favorite part of the whole course, is that downhill. Maybe you'll see the beaver out. I saw him last year. And then here we're going to head up the staircase, up through this canyon, out at this other pond. Now you've met up where orange is going in the reverse direction. You get to the main junction, take a right. You're coming right back into camp. And that is the red loop. Now also again here on CalTopo, there is the 10K, which measures at 6.86 miles. That is about 0.6 miles longer than your traditional 10K. Bonus miles are always free at HPRS. We didn't charge you for it. You're welcome. 6.86 miles. You're going to climb about 1,200 feet in elevation gain, 1,200 feet of loss. And again, as I drag my mouse across the elevation profile, you can see that you're running the green loop first, checking in at that main aid station. Then you're going to head out, and you're going to run orange second. Again, this is the 10K, green, then orange. All right? So again, if you're in the 10K, I will show you again. We're going to leave. You're going to run the green loop. Let me change the color for you, actually. Let's make sure we got the right color on here for you so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're going to run the green loop in the clockwise direction. You're going to check back in at camp. Then you're going to head back out, and now you're going to run the orange loop also in the clockwise direction. Looks like a kidney, and then come back into camp. And that is the end of the 10K. Again, if you start the half marathon, you get to this point, and you're like, you know what? I think I've had enough. You can stop there, and we will gladly give you a finishing time in the 10K results. Live to run another day. It's not a big deal. It's just running. It's a hobby. Let's not do anything. You know, we don't need to finish at all costs anymore. Let's have a great time. Let's leave with a wonderful taste in our mouths, ready to run another day. If it's just not your day, it's okay to call it good. If you're in the half marathon, you're going to come out to around 14 miles. Yep, that is long. Again, bonus miles are free. Didn't even charge you for them. 2,400 feet of gain, 2,400 feet of loss. This elevation profile really just looks like hill repeats, because it is. What we're going to do is you're going to run the green loop going in the clockwise direction. Check back in to start-finish line. Head back out. Run the orange loop in the clockwise direction. Check back into the start-finish line. And then you're going to head back out for the purple loop, which is, again, a long lollipop that runs counterclockwise when you're out at that loop. And then back in to camp. So again, let's do all three. If you're in the half marathon, you're going to run a clockwise green loop, come back in, check into camp. Then you're going to head back out and you're going to run the orange loop clockwise all the way around, come back into camp. And then you can quit there if you'd like. We'll put your result in the 10K. But if you want to continue and do that last loop, it is purple. You're going to head out on this purple loop. Long stick followed by a counterclockwise loop out at the far end. And then, let me change my color here. And then you're going to come all the way back in the same way that you headed out earlier. And that is the half marathon for this event. And again, maps are available here. This is the 10K paper map. Again, you will run the green loop in the clockwise direction. And again, if you're in the half marathon, your race is going to start with that same green loop and the same orange loop. You all head on out, and you're going to run orange in the clockwise direction as well. Come on back in. That's your 10K. And again, if you're in the half marathon, same thing. 10K clockwise, green loop clockwise, same as the 10K. Orange loop clockwise, same as the 10K. The only major difference between the 10K and the half is that we're adding that purple loop in for your last loop. Heading on out. Long lollipop counterclockwise out at the far end. And then, of course, come all the way back in the same way that you went out to finish your half marathon. And that is our course preview for the Endure Trail Runs. Again, you can access the CalTopo interactive map here on our website. You just click on this link, and it will take you right to CalTopo, the map that I was just showing you, that we were just using. You can also print out these printable maps here, available as well. Elevation profiles for all of these loops are available to you as well. These are also in your runner's drive, which you will get information about in the pre-race informational email that gets sent out to everybody about a week out from race day. Thanks so much for joining me for a course preview and an event preview for the Endure Trail Runs here at the Human Potential Running Series. I'm your race director, John LaCroix. We'll see you on race day.